It is Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, and you're listening or watching to a brand new episode of the Boiler Breakdown podcast. First episode we've done since our season recap for basketball way back in March. Unfortunately, this isn't how we wanted to make our return. We were hoping to, and we still probably will, some sort of trivia show either next month in July or in August. But some very sad breaking news today that you, Evan, texted me first this
Mhm.
morning that Purdue legend, All American Caleb Biggie Swanigan passed away today at the age of 25.
Yeah, 25, it's just an absolute, sucks. You and I are both, I'm 29 years old, so it's, crazy to think someone our age would pass away this young, but let alone someone quite a few years younger than someone we were already graduated by the time he even came to Purdue. Um, yeah, it was just a really sad day for Purdue and just the college basketball world in general because, looking back, and it was, it's fun to reminisce about players, but it's unfortunate when it has to happen when a lot of times it happens when they pass on. But he was an absolute force in all of college basketball. I think he's the only player that, arguably that we've had even more so than Jaden Ivey, who had a legit shot at National Player of the Year.
Yeah, and it's just really weird with this timing. Like I was just literally couldn't have been 2 or 3 days ago, more than 2 or 3 days ago. He just popped in my head for some
Hmm.
reason, and I started thinking about the 2 years we had him and how dominant he was in
Hmm.
that 2016-2017 season, which was his
Hmm.
sophomore year. And I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I don't know if we're ever going to see a player like him again at Purdue. Probably not.
Right.
And that's coming off of two really good years from Jaden Ivey, who come Thursday night is going to be most likely a top 10 pick, if not a top 5 pick.
Hmm. So yeah, he's probably. Both of their careers kind of were similar to the fact that they're both had good freshman years. I think Ivy had a better than Caleb, um, but their sophomore year was just absolute domination. Obviously, very different players, and as you kind of mentioned, like we not see him again at Purdue because it's just not the way the game is played a whole lot. We thought maybe Trayvon Williams could be a Biggie Junior, which in a ways he was. He was better in other ways than Biggie, but obviously Biggie. I saw someone post on Twitter that just the way Biggie rebounded was unlike anything we've seen at Purdue. Maybe our dads can talk about someone before our time, but in our lifetime, I don't think we've seen a better rebounder at Purdue than Biggie because he just I'm not I don't know how many balls he did not when he went up for it.
Yeah, he wanted that ball every single time. I mean, even there was times where the crowd had to yell at him to make sure he knew his teammate was right next to him
Yeah.
when he's going to get the ball. And I don't think we'll ever see a Purdue player, or at least I shouldn't say ever, but it'll probably be quite a long time to win if we ever do see a Purdue player again where a double double becomes just a thing of nature,
Yeah.
just expected every
Yeah,
night.
if he didn't have one, it was like, "Oh, what was wrong with Biggie tonight?" If he didn't have a double double by 10 minutes left in the game.
Exactly. I mean, everybody that follows Purdue sports and Purdue basketball, in general, knows about his story. I mean, everything he
Yeah.
overcame from. I mean, this was a kid from birth and his upbringing that was so tough. Roosevelt Barnes steps in,
Hmm.
adopts him, loses all that weight, gets in tremendous shape, becomes a McDonald's All American, wins Mr. Basketball. Originally commits to Michigan State, then
Hmm.
changes his mind and flips to Purdue. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Which I still, for some reason, think this day, I think he wanted to go to Cal. I really
Really.
do.
Yeah.
Um, just from some comments like during that recruiting process, seemed like he wanted to go play with his buddy Jalen Brown. They would have been a force out there with Konzo,
Hmm.
but thank goodness came to Purdue, and we saw a legend for 2 years. Like you said, he was a solid freshman,
Hmm.
definitely, but wasn't earth shattering.
Yeah.
Tests
We thought he might be one and done just because he was all American. He was the highest recruit Painters ever had. So we all kind of thought, well, we'll get 1 year Biggie, and then his freshman year wasn't great. I think he had a turnover percentage of about 25%. So literally, one out of every 4 times he was turning the ball over. Tried to do too much. I feel like a lot. mean, obviously you had guys like Hammonds and Isaac Haas on the team too, so he might have been a little bit out of position. Even he wanted to play the 4, but I think his best spot was the 5, and that's what we kind of saw his sophomore year. I think you're right. Yeah, I think Purdue was definitely a business decision for Biggie. I mean,
Absolutely.
in today's game, I mean, that's pretty much what a lot of it is now with NIL and everything else. It's who can get me to the NBA the fastest, and there's really very few do you find guys who are who just absolutely love the school they go to, committing to originally. But I think by the end, he had really came to love Purdue. I mean, I think it was PJ Thompson posted a screenshot from a group text that he's to the guys when he decided he was going to leave for the NBA, and he's like, I want to, but I have to. Which, I mean, 100%. Like, I mean, if you have that opportunity, you go, you take it, because you never know what's going to happen. But I think I don't think he was excited about coming to Purdue at first, but I think by the end he had really fallen in love with the school and the community.
I agree. And I remember when he, made his decision to stay in the draft, I think it was John Rothstein or somebody, some national reporter accidentally tweeted that he was coming back to Purdue. And I remember seeing that and I got real excited. And then a minute later, it was like deleted and edited to saying he was staying. I think it was, a decision that definitely wasn't made easy. It wasn't an easy decision for him to make, but like you said, he had to go. If he would have came back to his junior year at Purdue, I'm sure he would have dominated, but he probably would have fell in the draft. As crazy as that sounds. But and I think Evan froze on my end. Not sure if he's trying to rejoin or not, but when he comes back on, I want to get some of his reactions to memories of Biggie. He is texting me right now asking if it went out on my end. Yeah, so that this news, and for those who haven't been following Caleb Swanigan's career since he got to the NBA, he was drafted, of course, by the Portland Trailblazers in the first round, hung around Portland for a couple of years, and then ended his career with the Sacramento Kings. His career ended in the 2020 season. He wasn't invited to the bubble, and that's kind of where his life kind of started to go down a bad road, it seemed. I can't. I just speculate. I don't know for fact, but it sounded like, from what I've read, he kind of got mixed up with the wrong people and then the wrong things, and gained a lot of his weight back, and unfortunately just couldn't beat some of those demons. And here's Evan back. Got your back now.
Yeah, I had nothing. Just message to AT&T, don't bother sponsoring us because I won't take it.
Well, I was just briefly talking about his NBA journey, how he got drafted by the Blazers round 1, spent a couple years in Portland, and ended his career in Sacramento, and kind of how the 2020 bubble season was kind of the end of his career. He didn't get invited to the bubble. And
I thought he turned it down. I thought I read that
he turned it down.
I think he turned down the opportunity to go down there, which when I read that, I was like, he's done. There's no way. Like, he was already a fringe role player at best. And it's like, if you're doing that, then they have every excuse to let you go and cut ties.
And I'm speculating here from what I've read and everything, but he sounded like got mixed up with the wrong people, with the wrong things, gained a lot of weight. He and his guardian, Roosevelt Barnes, had a falling out. So things were kind of snowballing. And I told you this before we got on air here. I was about a year ago, I think, texting one of our good friends. And we were talking and saying that, man, if he doesn't turn his life around soon, something bad's going to happen. And unfortunately, we got that news today. Now they are saying it's natural causes, but
don't know what that means.
I'm not sure what all goes into that. But needless to say, no matter what, it's a sad day for Purdue, sad day for college basketball. Like Ray Davis says here on Facebook, one of the hardest workers in Purdue basketball. Yeah. Everybody talked about Biggie's work ethic. I mean, he was, I know game he put up 20-some points, and in the post game he wasn't available to media because he was going to do the Stairmaster. I mean, who does that? That's a guy that was set on a clear-cut goal and mission, and he achieved that. He got to the NBA.
Yep, and I think there was I think it was March Madness when they have their media availability in the locker room. I think they said I think I read a couple guys said that they went in there like he wasn't available because he was literally in the middle of the room on a stationary bike, just with his hood pulled up, pulled the string so no one he couldn't talk to anybody, but it was just working in the middle of the room while everybody else was sitting back and taking interviews.
That's what set him apart. I mean, he knew, like you said, it was a business decision to come to Purdue, and it paid off for him. And he did get his degree. He went back, finished his degree. So very smart kid, and got his degree in 3 years. It's just sad, man. Just sad.
Yep.
I mean, what are some of your favorite Biggie memories?
I mean, the one that always stands out to me, probably just because it was my last game seeing him, and it was maybe because I was there is what stands out to it, but just the second game was Iowa State up in Milwaukee. Sure. Closing moments, this tight game. We're up, we're up probably by I can't remember how much we're up by, but he went up and got a rebound. And I remember just like sitting in my seat, like just going nuts, but just being like, that's a dude who absolutely wanted this game and might have just won the game for Purdue just on that single play. It's just like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Like I remember like from where I had a great angle of it, but just like they say sometimes rebounding. There's the cliche is whichever who wants it more. Well, Biggie wanted it more, and he got the rebound that helped kind of secure the game for Purdue.
It was on a missed free throw, if I remember correctly.
Yep. Yeah. I think was it Matthias was shooting or PJ was shooting?
One of those two. I was going back and forth in my head. I remember PJ hit the big three that rattled in.
I think it might have been PJ because I want to say PJ might have missed some free throws that game because he was a good free throw shooter and usually pretty clutch. But I want to say he might have missed a free throw or two down the stretch that was like, oh boy. But then I think he then hit that clutch. He kind of made up for it. So I want to say I can't remember. I want to say it might have been Matthias. I can't remember. But yeah, it was a missed free throw, which obviously on a free throw that we're shooting, we're at the disadvantage because we only have 2 to their 4, and his positioning was, probably, I don't know if it's fair to say, but Rodman-esque. He just knew where the ball was going to, hit. He knew angles. He knew exactly where the ball was going probably before the shooter did. And he used that to his advantage. And because he wasn't the biggest guy. He was maybe 6'10". He's not like an AJ Hammonds or a Zach Edey now, who's just an absolute monster. He just used his body and just outworked everybody like he did in the gym. It was just straight work at that point.
Ray Davis says the Michigan State game is first time there after turning down MSU scholarship. Brian Newbert of Black and Gold wrote a really good column today on Biggie, and he called Biggie's performance his sophomore year up at East Lansing when I think he had like, I'm gonna get the stats wrong in my head, but it was like 25 points, 16 rebounds, or maybe 13 rebounds. He said that was the best performance he's ever seen by Purdue basketball.
Because we didn't go up there his freshman year, right? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, because that was like the big thing. It was like, because I remember, I think it was before the season, like Big Ten media, they asked him what he was looking forward to most, and his response was that game up in East Lansing because he didn't get a chance to do it. I'm really looking forward to playing up at Michigan State, and yeah, he just dominated.
He did play him twice his freshman year, though. We beat him at home and lost to him in the Big Ten championship game, and he took a big three. I think we were down 1 with under a minute left, and he hit like backboard only.
Yep.
It was not a good one, but that's the type of dude he wanted. He wanted that ball. He wanted the big shot in a big time moment, and that's what one thing he improved on amongst many going into sophomore year was his 3-point shooting.
Yeah, and it's like he didn't take a ton, but it's kind of those things where if you made the first one, I think Painter kind of was like, all right, you can get another one, but if you miss that first one, then you're done. But is thinking back to his freshman year because that was like, we thought we had a really good team because we had obviously Ray Davis as a senior, we had AJ Hammonds as a senior, we had Biggie as a freshman, we had the Isaac Haas, or sorry, Isaac, Vincent, Dakota, PJ were sophomores, and then we had the Little Rock game, and then it was like, are we really gonna? We had this, decent. We had we're a 4 seed or a 5 seed, and then we just lost to Little Rock, and now it's all over. But then
Mhm.
thankfully he obviously came back.
Yeah, came back and really he put the nation on notice early that year in his sophomore year. He against Norfolk State, he had 32 points, 20 boards.
Mm-hmm.
And then against Villanova, the defending champs, he had a heck of a game and a heartbreaking loss for Purdue. But that kind of let the nation know, okay, this guy's improved this much more. He's for real. He's got to be an All-American and the National Player of the Year candidate. And he
Mm-hmm.
was an All-American, and he ended up being Big Ten Player of the Year that year
Mm-hmm.
and got Purdue to their first outright Big Ten title that you and I had ever seen. We were
Mm-hmm.
alive for the three-peat. We just didn't remember it. And,
Right.
of course, the 2010 when we shared the title with Michigan State and Ohio State, but that was their first outright one. And that's in that last game of his and Mackey against Indiana is one I'll never forget. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because how it all came to be, and everybody knew that was going to be his last time
Mm-hmm.
playing in front of the Mackey crowd, and yeah, it was just special. Of course, them playing the Biggie song, lyrics to Biggie, all throughout his sophomore year,
Yep.
special. This game at Michigan State, which Ray Davis corrected me. Thank you, Ray. 25.17 boards. That's one I'll never
Stupid.
forget. At Maryland that year, I know Carson hit the clutch free throws down
Mm-hmm.
the stretch, but Biggie hit some big threes down the stretch of that game. Um, the Northwestern one after we beat Indiana. We're playing at Northwestern on CBS, and I remember Spike Albrecht had a crazy pass. I think it was Spike behind the back. Biggie catches it
Yeah.
for a dunk. They call timeout, and both of them are like, "Let's go, boys!" That was cool.
It's a gift that's used all the time. I mean, that was cool. 'Cause you worried about, okay, like we won the Big Ten already. We beat Indiana to do it, so there's that high. It's okay. Are we gonna? Because Northwestern, that wasn't the year they made the tournament, right? It was the next year.
Man, I don't remember.
Because
I'll
I
look it
remember,
up.
like,
I'll look it up.
so I want to say it would have been disappointing to lose that game because I don't think Northwestern was all that great that year, but it was still gonna be a tough game. But yeah, they were kind of firing all cylinders, and it's just secured the outright, which was pretty cool.
Let's see. I'm looking
I
this
want to
up
say it was
here.
2018.
It was 2017.
Oh, so they did make the tournament that year. Okay, so they
Yep.
already secured it. Okay, so it was maybe that explains why it was such a good game because they were a pretty good team.
Man, Collins has been there since 2013.
Yeah.
But so many good games Biggie had. It's hard to pick just a couple, but those are a couple that came off my mind first and foremost. And you named a good one, the Iowa State game, of course. And even against Kansas, even though it was a slaughter, he still had a good game.
Yeah. It was a good first half.
Yeah.
Until they went. I think did they end the first half on kind of a.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. I still to this day am shocked that Oregon beat them in Kansas City in the Elite Eight.
Well, I just remember the leaders of that game, so I was actually watching it at our good buddy Andrews, our co-host, who can't make it today, which we never got to mention that we've added a new family member to the Boiler Breakdown family.
Yes,
and
we
the fact
did.
That congratulate Andrew and Izzy on birth of their son not too long ago.
Yes, about a month ago, I think. I just saw pictures on Facebook. That's been a month already. So
we'll just assume he's going to Purdue, not Butler. So we'll just let that.
Yep.
We'll let that.
Got to get him in that. We need to get him in a Boiler Breakdown T-shirt sooner or later.
I remember before that game, I was watching his apartment, and they had like an interview with Biggie and Roosevelt before, kind of just talking about again Biggie's story because I was kind of taking the nation by storm. And I remember, I think Roosevelt was like, I believe Biggie's going to lead Purdue to a national championship, and I was like, let's go, here we go. And that game after was like, never mind, we're not doing this. It's not happening this year. But it was kind of we talked about in the past, but I remember after that year, it was like, if not now, when? Like, we just had Biggie Swanigan, and we're not. And also around that team, we had Carson Edwards, who was a freshman. Like that's crazy. Talk about another guy who probably looked at Biggie and Carson just outworked everybody, which then has kind of led to Jaden Ivey just outworking everybody. So hopefully we see more and more of that trend of just guys just refusing to refuse to be outworked by anybody else. But I just thought, if I can get it with Biggie, how are we going to do this? And then lo and behold, 2 years later, we're almost there again. It's like, man, how are we going to do this again?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I know people are saying that right now, going into the 2022-2023 season. How are we going to do this? Well, maybe they'll find a way. So, but yeah, I know one thing, I'll never forget it. It's always in my mind when we're talking about Swanigan. It's when he left in his Instagram post, I believe he said, "We made Purdue sexy."
Yep,
and he did.
He's right. I mean, before then it was a certain brand. It wasn't really cool. Obviously there was another team in the state that had the cool factor that we didn't have, but I think Biggie and Carson and now Jaden have really kind of changed that narrative of, you can be cool and play at Purdue.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on the flip side of football, I know we're getting a little off topic here, but Rondell Moore was right there in the mix too with
Mm-hmm.
Carson at the same time. So, but Biggie was kind of the first one to get that ball rolling,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, his name's forever going to be up in the rafters at
Mm-hmm.
Purdue. I hope. I know Travion just wore it, but I would like to see him retire 50. Don't let
Yeah.
anybody wear
I
it
mean,
anymore.
two great players back to back to wear 50, so it's as good a time as any. Yeah, I'm sure they'll do some sort of patch or something. Excuse me, this year to commemorate him. But yeah, he's just a special talent that I'm not sure we'll ever see one like
No,
that again.
I still remember where I was when the news broke that he was flipping from Michigan State to Purdue
I
in
was actually
2016.
studying abroad. So I was in Spain. I don't know if it was you guys texted me because the time difference was so crazy. But I think I saw it on Hammer and Rails that he had flipped, and it was like, "Holy crap, we just got a 5-star!" Like it
Yeah,
was, and still our only 5-star, really.
yeah, and it was our
Um,
first Mr. Basketball in the state of Indiana since Big Dog. So,
yep, it's nuts.
and he helped open up that Fort Wayne pipeline again too. I mean, we've
Well,
got
there was
Caleb First since then, and Fletcher Lawyer.
yeah, I was kind of just looking at different, I think I was just looking at the trending, he was trending today and just kind of looking at different tweets. And there was an Illinois, I don't know if it was a beat writer or just a blog or something, said that one thing they're always remember about our biggest Swanigan was his influence on Luke Goody, because who also went to Homestead. They said that he went to camps that Biggie worked or attended or something when he was, a small kid. So obviously his reach goes pretty far.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a lot. There's a lot of stories out there on social media I saw and on the message board and stuff of people talking about how great Biggie was with their kids and
Hmm.
at camps and everything. And everybody said he, was a gentle giant, gentle soul. So it makes today's news even just that much
Hmm.
more sad and hard to
Yep.
hard to grasp. But it's like I was mentioning earlier when your camera and audio went out for a little bit. It's unfortunate. I mean, he overcame a lot of demons, but um, in the end, there was a
Yeah.
couple that he just couldn't overcome.
Yep. It's sad. But at the end of the day, too, like he was not supposed to make it, and
No, he
he
wasn't.
did, and he
Hmm.
did. As I think Greg Dole said, like none of his siblings graduated high. Some of them had records already by the time Biggie was older. He was living under a bridge at one point. Like I think Greg Dole said to call him poor would be almost an insult because he was worse than poor. He was penniless. Like he had nothing. And the fact that he even made it out is, something to be celebrated and continue to be celebrated, because it just shows that, obviously you need some help, but hopefully it still serves as an inspiration. Travion even says it was a huge,
Right.
impact on him. Just, the fact that he was also a big kid, struggled with, the weight issue, and being able to look at a guy like Biggie and be like, hey, I can maybe do that. And hopefully, he's passed on Travion passed on hopefully to somebody else. And the legend of Biggie can just keep being passed on from generation to generation, and he'll stay immortal that way.
I honestly thought they would make a movie about his life
Yeah,
someday, kind of like The Blind Side of Michael Orr.
yeah,
Now I don't know. Maybe they will eventually. I don't know with
yeah.
how his passing away at 25 that probably affects that. But man, he touched so many people in just 25 years of life here on
Hmm.
Earth. I think that's the biggest takeaway here.
Yep. That's unfortunate. It
He's
just
definitely
sucks.
gone, but never forgotten.
Hmm.
Gone, but never forgotten. And just thankful and feel really appreciative that we got to see him for 2 years.
Hmm.
So, any other closing thoughts? I know there's other Purdue news we could go over, but we kind of
Yeah.
just wanted to do a quick kind of emergency pod tonight, just in remembrance of Caleb Biggie Swanigan.
Yeah, it was one of the first Purdue players that I can remember that was left early for the NBA. It was a first round pick. We're about to have another one here in the next ways, as we kind of mentioned with Jaden. So again, coming back to that cool factor of, um, what we can, what he kind of set the precedent for and what was possible to do at Purdue, is something that we'll always remember, and kind of now almost kind of expect to have that moving forward with guys, even guys who've even yet to show up on campus, but I just remember it was just being in awe of him at the time. It was just like I cannot believe, players this dominant is playing, for my school. And it was just he was must watch TV every time just because he was you kind of forgot. I kind of watched some cool stuff. I forgot how good of a passer he was too. I mean, he
Right.
wasn't to the level of Travion with the flashiness, but he just knew where to find guys.
Hmm.
And just the obviously that we've talked about a ton already. It's just I couldn't even begin to grasp his work ethic and what he did to get his body right and get prepared to do what he did. Um, yeah, it's just I mean it's something that we were very lucky to have.
Ray Davis on Facebook says, "Watch the story of Biggie and Roosevelt on the Steve Harvey Show. Really good." Yes, I recommend everybody going to watch that if you haven't already. Is he on your Mount Rushmore of Purdue basketball?
Whew.
I guess. Oh, I assume he is in your lifetime.
Oh
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's tough. 'Cause what if four guys on Mount Rushmore? I mean,
Yes.
it'd also be really easy to throw Big Etwan Jawan all on there all at in the same time. But I think you obviously Robbie, Biggie, Carson just for what he did. And I know he still gets a lot of crap, but I think Jaden's one of the best players we've ever seen at Purdue. Obviously, didn't have the results we wanted, but just pure athleticism, just what he was able to do. But obviously, you can throw. I mean, technically, Big Dog was in our lifetime, but
Right.
don't really remember seeing him a whole lot. But yeah, I think
Right.
Biggie is definitely on there.
Yeah, I think you have to put him on there. And really, I saw how hard that was for you to come up with four. That's a pretty good problem, I guess,
Yeah,
for
I mean,
Purdue to
we're
have.
very lucky. Yeah,
I mean that a lot of people say that Matt can't recruit. Well, right there, kind of, kind of, kind
and
of
three of those
triggers that.
guys that I mentioned were very recent too.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
So, yep, I think he's definitely on the Mount Rushmore. I mean, if you talk about the older guys, then you got Rick Mountain, Joe Barry Carroll,
yeah,
Big Dog, of course. If you want to go way back, you can even throw John Wooden, but it gets
yeah,
tough because the game's changed so much.
yeah.
But in our lifetime, from '92 on, the last 30 years, definitely, Biggie's on there. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think we've pretty much said everything there is that we
Hmm.
can say, at least at this time. I mean, it's been difficult trying to even
Hmm.
think, even prepping for the show, kind of in my head what I wanted to say. I wasn't sure,
Yeah,
but
and it just sucks seeing like posts like Vince Edwards specifically. You can tell he's taking it hard. And it just sucks because obviously we love watching him play, but this was literally their brother at this point. Guys they went to battle with all the time, and I mean obviously I'm sure that they had been talking to him. We don't know what was going on, but it sucks to see.
yeah, I
I mean,
saw Vince this morning when I woke up tweeted something like, "This can't be real." So I figured he had a family member pass away or something, and
yeah,
then a couple hours later we learned that it was Biggie.
yeah, it just doesn't seem real still. I'll
It doesn't.
see pictures, video of them or whatever, or pictures people are posting. It's just like it doesn't. I mean, I know we haven't really seen Biggie in a while. Obviously there was his incident last year, but even like and we didn't see him a whole lot in the NBA. But he's never won for the limelight, anyways. It seemed like so he was kind of used to that. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like I'm sure there's gonna be a point where we're gonna be talking in the future about a podcast and we'll bring up Biggie, and I'm probably gonna forget that he's even gone until we had reminded of it. Yeah, this is a tough one.
Yeah, it is. It really hit hard today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the first popular Purdue player, I think, in our lifetime that we grew up watching that's passed. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's home for sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, rest in peace, Biggie.
Hmm.
You will definitely be missed, gone but not forgotten.
Absolutely.